We are learning Mishna Sotah, Perek Test, Chapter 9, Mishnah Ches, Mishnah 8. Now, the previous Mishnah said that if we find the murderer before the Egla Rufa, before the neck is severed, the halacha is that we stop the whole thing. Once we know who the murderer is, there is no more mitzvah of Egla Rufa. So how do we know? So you'll say witnesses, right? 2 witnesses. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that, as we're going to see from the Mishnah, that actually that although typically you need 2 witnesses, in this situation to establish that we know who the murderer was, at least regarding the law of Egla Rufa, all you need is 1 witness. That is derived from the words of the Torah. As long as we know somehow that who the murderer is, then the halacha is there is no Egla Rufa. And once we say that even 1 witness works, that means that even a person who's typically not qualified to be a witness works. That means a woman would be able to be a witness in this case too. Mm-hmm. So the Mishnah now has the following scenario. Eid echad omer ra'isi es ha'horeg. 1 witness says that I saw the murderer. I saw it happen, and I can identify him. I can identify him. I saw him do the crime. I can identify him. Now, as we said, this 1 witness is really enough to say that no more Egla Rufa. Of course, this 1 witness would not be able to be used to, let's say, administer capital punishment for what he did, but it's enough to stop the process, to suspend the procedure, or the ritual of Egla Rufa. But now in our Mishnah, it goes like this. 1 witness said, I saw the murderer. Another witness says, no, you didn't see. Why? How do I know you didn't see it? The answer is because basically he says, for you to say that you saw him, you have to say where, you have to say what time was it, what day it was, and the time and day and everything that you say it was, you were with me. And we weren't there. And therefore, the 1 witness contradicts the other 1 witness and says, you didn't see. Okay? Now, or, as we said before, this halacha doesn't only apply to a person who is typically a kosher witness if he's together with 2. It means even someone who typically does not qualify as a witness at all. Isha Omeres Re'isi, a woman came forth and she said, I saw the murderer. The Isha Omeres Loi Re'isa, another woman says, you didn't see, because of the same thing as we said just before. You were with me at that time. You couldn't have done it. So what happens then? Hayu Arfin. They would then continue with the ritual and they would perform the Egla Rufa. They would sever its neck. So why are we doing that? I mean, the first witness said, I can see that I know who did it. The answer is because we have a second witness who came and contradicted the first witness. And therefore, if they're contradicted, what happens? They're kind of canceled out, or we're back to square one. We don't have anything, and if we're back to square one, that means we don't know who the murderer is, and therefore we will continue with performing the ritual of Egla Rufa. You get that? Now, the thing is like this: as the Baratunra points out, this is very specific. This is in a specific scenario. The 1 witness who said, "I saw the murderer, I can identify the murderer," and the other witness who contradicts and says, "No, you couldn't have." They came to Beis Din together. That means that the 1 witness came, said in Beis Din in the rabbinical court, I know I can identify the murderer. And before the Beis Din actually went through the whole process of investigating, or before the Beis Din actually accepted what the 1 witness said and declared that, okay, no Egla Rufa. Before that, that's when the other witness showed up, meaning the other witness showed up before the first witness's testimony was fully accepted. Then you've got 1 witness against another witness. 1 witness, meaning the 1 witness who comes, he's just coming, before he is accepted, before his testimony is accepted, he's just 1 witness. And therefore, if another 1 witness comes and contradicts, then he contradicts, and everything falls away, and we're left with nothing. But if, let's say, the case would have been, the 1 witness came, and the Beis Din heard him out, or heard her out, and they actually accepted what they said, and because they accepted what they said, okay, no Eglah Rufa. And then after that, the one witness shows up and says, no, you couldn't have seen because we were together that day and time. Then the second witness will not be able to contradict the first anymore. Because even though when the Torah now gives us this novel law that says that the one witness can establish that they saw the murderer and suspend Eglah Rufa, once what they have testified is accepted in the Beis Din, it now has a power like two witnesses. If it's believed, then it's like two witnesses. So if we already established their testimony, accepted it, which means we've already given the testimony of the one witness the power of two witnesses, when the other one witness shows up, he doesn't have the power of two. The Torah doesn't essentially give anybody the ability to testify about anything about Eglah Rufa. It gives them the power to testify that we know who the murderer is. But if they're just coming to go ahead and contradict and say that no, you couldn't have, they don't have any special belief regarding that. They don't have any special power regarding that. And therefore, it comes out in that situation that it's one witness against two. In the first case of the Mishnah, before the one witness's testimony is accepted, he's just one witness. And then another witness can contradict. But once the one witness's testimony is accepted, then he's like two witnesses. And the one that comes to contradict him is only one. One against two doesn't work. And therefore, in that situation, the halacha would be that we do not then continue with performing Eglah Rufa. Okay? That's the first part of the Mishnah. Now we have the next part. Eid echad omer ra'isi. One witness says, I saw the murderer. I can identify him. Ushnayim oimrim loy ra'isa. And two witnesses say, no, you didn't see. So what do we have here? One against two. We have two that say you couldn't have done it. So, meaning you couldn't have seen it, I'm sorry. So what happens then? Hayu arfin. They would then now go forth with performing the Eglah Rufa. Now think about this. You got the one witness, right, against two witnesses. Now, if it's going to be different than the case before, which it should be because it's not one against one, it's one against two, that means that even after the one witness's testimony is accepted, if two show up and they say, no, you couldn't have, that's going to be enough to at least contradict, right? At least you're able to contradict. And therefore, if it would contradict, he says, I can identify the murderer, so no Eglah Rufa. Two say, no, you can't, because you were with us. So it would seemingly be a hakash, would seemingly be a contradiction. And we're left with nothing, and you go forward. But the Bartanura says that's not the case of the Mishnah. The case of the Mishnah is actually not that you've got one witness against two witnesses. You have one invalid witness against two invalid witnesses. You've got one woman, let's say, against two women. Now, they're all essentially not witnesses, right? But we say the Torah gives that a woman, even who's typically not a kosher witness, the Torah gives that person the ability to say, I saw the murderer, I can identify him, no Eglah Rufa. All right, so now, she came and she testified. Her testimony was accepted. The testimony was accepted, which means she should be like two. Now, two other women show up and say, no, you couldn't have, you were with us. So what do we have? Do we have two against two? The answer is no. The answer is, even though the first one's testimony was already accepted, it's not two against two. Because when you're dealing with invalid witnesses, when everybody here is invalid, you follow the majority, you follow the rove, you follow the one that has more. And therefore, even though the first one's testimony was accepted and accepted, if we have two invalid witnesses that come forth and say, no, you couldn't have seen that, then the halacha is we follow 2/1, even though the one was believed and the one was accepted. When you're dealing with invalid witnesses, then you follow the one that's the majority. You follow the one that has more. And therefore, in this case, there were more saying that you couldn't have seen it, and therefore, that knocks off the one who said, I did see, and they go forward with the ritual of Eglah Rufa. Now Mishnah concludes, Shnayim Oimrim Ra'inu. Two say we saw. One says, no, you didn't see. They didn't. Yeah. Because again, we're talking about all the witnesses here are invalid, and you have two saying that we saw, one saying, no, you couldn't have seen. What do we follow? We follow the one that has more. And as they point out here in the notes, the point here is that this idea of following, when we're dealing with invalid witnesses, that you follow the greater number of witnesses, those are the ones that you follow, those are the ones that you believe. So in the first case, we used the more invalid witnesses to say that we do perform Eglah Rufa. In the second case, it comes out that we're following the majority to say that we don't follow, that we don't have to do it. So basically, in the first case, we're going l'chumra, in the sense we're going more strict in saying that we will do it because we follow the majority invalid witnesses. And the second case is we're going to be lenient. We're going to say no Eglah Rufa because we follow the majority of the invalid witnesses who say you couldn't have seen, and we'll then go ahead and perform Eglah Rufa. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. Now, do you have